So today's webinar is being hosted by Adam Matthew Digital's North America Quartex sales team. My name is Jessica Kowalski, and I am joined by my colleague, Katie Gambone. And if you'd like to learn more about us and our other members of the Quartex team, we invite you to visit quartexcollections.com. So before we jump into full text search and what it is and how we use it, I'd like to take a moment to discuss what is Quartex and why we're all here today. Quartex is a digital collections platform developed by Adam Matthew Digital. And as an award-winning publisher of primary source content, Adam Matthew Digital has 30 years experience curating and showcasing digitized archival collections. Our experience with those archival collections has informed development of the technology underlying every collection we release, ensuring our customers can effectively discover, access, and explore all the content we publish. Adam Matthew Digital now makes this technology available as Quartex to libraries, archives, and other heritage institutions to facilitate digital publishing. Since releasing our platform to repositories beginning at ALA Annual 2018, Quartex has grown to support a number growing of clients based all around the world, and we'll show you who those are in just a moment. Quartex is a hosted solution developed by a dedicated and skilled team of engineers. Designed for a broad range of repository needs, Quartex supports academic libraries, public libraries, corporate libraries, historical societies, and museums. As such, Quartex is capable of hosting a variety of materials, including images, handwritten documents, and audiovisual materials. Backed by a robust program of investment and development, Quartex continuously benefits from new functionality added to support the requirements of both customers and the Adam Matthew Digital publishing schedule. Thus, all functionality you'll see today on the Quartex platform will also be made available on Adam Matthew's next generation of products, beginning with mass observation in June of this year. And that's what you see here on this slide. So Quartex is pleased to welcome a host of new clients to our platform over the past year and a half. We're thrilled to announce that Towson University has just recently joined the Quartex family as our newest customer, and we look forward to working with them over the next several months as they begin their migration process. Several of our clients have publicly available Quartex sites, and we encourage you to visit each of their platforms and explore them for yourselves. As you'll note, each site has a different look and feel, all configurable in Quartex to your needs, no tech experience required. Website design is easy in Quartex, but we'll save that topic for a future webinar. Today, we'll be looking at two client sites that launched earlier this month, McGill University in Montreal and Baylor University in Waco, Texas. We'll also be looking at examples from the Quartex demo site as well. So what is full text search and how are we using it in Quartex? As you're probably already aware, full text search refers to a search engine examining each word in every stored document in a database based on a query applied by a user. Full text search is distinct from searches based on metadata or parts of the original text represented in databases. Think of abstracts, titles, selection sections, things like that. Many of you are also likely familiar with optical character recognition, or OCR. In many databases today, full text search is possible on any print assets on which OCR has been run. The OCR output, which is typically a transcript, then extends searching capabilities beyond metadata, providing for that asset additional access points to increase discoverability. This is particularly helpful in lengthier compound objects, which is impossible to capture all relevant subject headings, such as newspapers, reports, catalogs, and the like. For other types of assets, AV or handwritten manuscripts, full text search can also be applied on assets for which a transcript has been manually created, either through a transcription service or crowdsourcing, though for AV transcription, that's more becoming prevalent. In Quartex, repositories can increase discoverability of their collections using 3 different types of full text search, and we'll discuss those here. OCR transcription for newspapers and pamphlets and books, audio and visual transcription for oral histories, records, tapes, video clips, and text recognition, which we call HTR, for handwritten documents. We'll explore each of these capabilities in Quartex on both the front end for researchers, and we'll also give you a glimpse at the back end for administrators. We'll begin by taking a look at an example of OCR on Baylor University's website. And before we jump in, I just want to give you a little history on Baylor. They joined Quartex in June of 2019, and they just recently launched their website after a full migration from Content DM. Baylor's site is home to collections of their 60 repositories on their campus. They have nearly 1 million images and 280,000 minutes of AV materials. Baylor plans on continuing to add to their site by adding new content and updating their metadata. So with that, let's jump in. All right, so we are going to perform a full text search on content that has been OCR'd by Baylor. They have a great set of oral histories, so we're going to start there, and we're going to search for content related to the Great Depression. So as we see here, Baylor has 2,673 instances of depression in their system, but we're searching on both the metadata and the full text. So if I search just on the metadata, I'm going to apply that filter. We'll see that there's only 202 results. So we get thousands of more results by including a full text search. We're going to search specifically in Baylor's oral histories. So I'm going to come down to our filters here and search just in their oral history collection. Browsing my results, I'm going to choose a memoir by Albert Mervyn Stevens. Now, while this is loading, Quartex OCR is powered by Abby FineReader 11, which is one of the most reputable OCR applications in the industry. Abby FineReader allows us to have asset hit highlighting as well as highlighting in the transcript itself. So we see here that the depression is highlighted in the asset. I'm going to click over here in the transcript, and here we are. And we can see that our search term is highlighted here as well. Whenever a transcript is produced in Quartex, it's always available alongside the asset, making it easier for researchers to reference, especially if there may be legibility issues in the original asset itself. Anytime a keyword search is performed, you can also find the instances of the hits in a search results tab. And I'd like to show these tabs here for you. Baylor actually customized this tab here to be called Asset Details. This is their metadata for their record. And we can scroll down here and see that there's no instance in which depression has been highlighted, but it does appear in our search results 21 times. And we can also see on which page our search result appears and how many times. So we'll go to page 46. On which our search result appears 6 times. We can also use the hits turner here and go back and forth among the pages on which our search term appears. You can see that it appears on 9 pages, but there's 66 pages in the whole document. Or we can also use browse images here, which will show us a thumbnail view. I think I clicked on the wrong thing, thanks. And then our search term will show up where it's highlighted in yellow. Administrators can also choose to make their assets downloadable in the transcript downloadable here. And you can download the transcript. And the end user can choose to either bookmark the image or bookmark the entire asset so that they may return to the content at a later time. And so it is at this time that I will pass it along to my colleague Katie to discuss AV transcription and HDR.
Great, thank you, Jessica. For a demonstration of Quartex's audio-visual transcription service, we're actually going to jump over to the Quartex Digital Collections demo site. On our demo site, we are, looks like we're thinking about that for just a second. Maybe I'll just pop over here. I think I have it open already. So on our demo site, we are showcasing assets from some of Adam Matthews' published collections. And I know that on our demo site, we actually have a number of materials from our World War II collection. So for this search, I'm going to search for the term Norden. Norden referring to the Norden bomb site, which was technology that was used in World War II, but also in the Korean and Vietnam Wars. We'll give that a second to load. Here we go. So with my search, you can see that we identified one asset in our collection where the term Norden bomb site has been found. Just showcasing the benefit of full text again, if we had disabled the full text search on transcripts and only applied our search on metadata, you would see that we actually get 0 results for this particular search term. So the only reason that we identified this asset for the term Norden is because of the transcript that's associated with this AV asset. So let's go ahead into this asset to show you what that looks like. Okay, so if we scroll down, you can see that in this asset, we have one instance of the term Norden found in our asset. So if you want to search for other terms, you can do that as well. So I'm going to see if Mr. Knoll mentioned Pearl Harbor at all during his conversation. So I'm running an additional search. Just give that a second. And if I scroll below, you'll see that actually he mentioned Pearl Harbor 5 times during his interview. Scrolling through the transcript, which you can see is, as with OCR, is directly alongside of the asset. If we begin to scroll through this transcript, a researcher can really easily see where their search term has been found. So in Quartex, AV transcription is provided through Amazon Transcribe. As I mentioned, as you can see, similar to OCR, if transcription's been run on an asset, then the transcript appears alongside. It creates a friendly reference point for the researcher. AV transcription has a number of benefits, though. So the transcript is automatically indexed against the asset, which again increases discoverability. And we saw the example of that when we did the initial search for Norden. You can also see here that AV transcription produces time stamping, which allows for easy navigation. So this is especially helpful for longer running AV assets. I'll go ahead and click directly on this link here, which will take me to that section of the video where Mr. Knoll mentions Pearl Harbor. I'll go ahead and mute that. The AV transcript also automatically feeds into closed captioning. Whoops. So this meets accessibility criteria and also allows a viewer to access the transcript here in this view, but also if a user wanted to go to full screen, they would have the benefit of the transcript available to them here as well. Closed captioning also can be accessed in digital exhibits. So here is a sample digital exhibit we've built from different assets related to our World War II prisoners of war in Quartex. We'll be covering exhibits in a webinar next week, and we do encourage you to join us. If we enter our exhibit, though, and scroll to the last page of our exhibit, you can see that we featured Mr. Knoll's oral history here. If we begin to play the asset, you can see again that the transcript has automatically pulled into the exhibit as well. As with OCR, AV transcription is not 100% accurate. So things like background noise, mumbling, things like that can actually impact the ability of the technology to accurately transcribe. Because of that, later this year, we are enabling the capability to manually and edit AV transcripts so that you can increase their accuracy. And that's a great project for volunteers or student workers. Last but not least, we'll learn a little bit about handwritten text recognition, which we refer to as HTR technology. And for this example, we're going to move over to the McGill University website, which you see here. McGill is using Quartex as a project-based approach specifically for our HTR technology. They are testing this on 2 different manuscripts collections, of which they've published one, the Doncaster Recipe Collection, which you see here. Apologies. Topics we've searched for today have been fairly heavy, so we thought for this search we'd lighten it up a bit. The old saying goes, when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. So for our search in the Doncaster recipes, we're going to search for the ingredient lemon. You can see here that our search has returned 4 relevant results. So if we click into this asset at the bottom, you'll get a sense of what the display of HTR looks like. And you can see that it's actually fairly similar to the display of assets that have been OCR'd. So we have hit highlighting in our asset. If we scroll down, you'll also see all of the pages on which the term lemon was found. There are quite a lot of them. So we have the ability, a researcher can page through their search results using this next and previous button there. So we'll give that a second to load. Okay. HTR technology is artificial intelligence that Adam Matthew has licensed exclusively through a third-party partner out of Europe and made available through Quartex. It is an algorithm that is searching for a combination of letters that match the combination of letters that's been entered into our search box, which I'm highlighting here. There is currently no transcript output that is part of this process. So you'll notice next to our summary metadata, there is no transcript tab here. So what's happening with HTR is the technology is actually searching the images themselves for our search term. And it's pretty powerful. So if we start to look at some of our search results, you can see here on this page that it's able to identify the term lemon. On what I consider somewhat difficult handwriting. If we flip to the next page, you can see that it's also able to identify the term lemon on text that's been written on a different axis. If we scroll down to our search results, you'll also see that pages 47, 48, and 50 were likely written by someone else. So there's multiple types of handwriting in this particular asset. If I click over to page 50, you can see here that, again, not only is this different handwriting, but there's also what we call text density on this page, so a very small script. And you can see that it's still able to identify our term lemon. So there is a distinction in how HTR works in Quartex compared to OCR and AV transcription. Because there is no transcript output, researchers are initially being pointed to these assets from the metadata. So McGill actually has a decent amount of metadata in this collection, and the term lemon was found in the metadata of each of the 4 assets that we initially identified. once a researcher is in an asset, it will also search and highlight the term here as well. So when we initially came into this asset, you could see that there was hit highlighting. However, we can also use this in-asset search box to run other searches. So this is our in-asset search box, and by comparison, this search box here will search the entire site. So if we wanted to run a different search, we could absolutely do that. So I'm going to search for the term orange, and you can see that our search results have changed. So there's now only 2 instances of the term orange, of the ingredient orange, mentioned in this particular asset. You can scroll in and see that the highlighting there. So HTR accuracy is impacted by 2 factors. The first is the quality and consistency of the handwriting, but in the examples we looked at today, you can see it performs surprisingly well on a script that is not consistent. The HTR is also impacted by the quality of the image. So for the best HTR results, we recommend using images that are at least 200 to 300 PPI. Most repositories are scanning to this criteria or even higher if you're following FADGI guidelines. So running OCR, AV transcription, and HTR in the Quartex platform is actually a really simple process. So we're going to jump into the administrative side of the platform. And this is password protected, which you can see here. So I'm going to go ahead and log in. From our Manage Assets tab, we can create lists from which you can then apply bulk functionality. So for the purposes of this example, I'm going to run a list, create a list of all AV assets. So I'm going to click on video. And actually, I think I need to modify my column options. So just 1 second. Want to be able to see the transcripts as well. So I've filtered by video, and I'm also looking for all assets that do not currently have a transcript. And you can see that I now have a list of assets. I can then select all of the assets and click on Transcribe AV. This pops up a modal that gives you an indication of the amount of AV transcription credits you have available. So in Quartex, AV transcription credits equal a single credit equals a single minute of AV assets. And for HTR and OCR, a credit equals a single page of content. So for the purposes of this example, it will tell you how many credits you have available, how many of those credits you're about to use, and what your balance is, so that you can then choose to run this process if you'd like to. And the processes in Quartex are actually running in the background so that you can then go on and multitask and do other work in the system. So I've just showed you how you could apply that service in a batch functionality. You can also do it on a more granular level as well. So for this example, we'll jump to a diary. We'll look at Memoirs of a Prisoner of War. We'll give that a second to load. And so once you pull up an individual asset, and click on Edit Asset Details, all of the pages within this compound object will now become available for you to select and run the processes on. So in this example of a diary, you can see not all pages actually have handwriting on them. So you can just go ahead and select the pages that you do want to run HTR on, and then click the button. As with the other example, you'll see your modal pops up, giving you a warning about the number of credits you're about to use and your balance, so that you can then choose to run that process. In Quartex, anytime a full text search service has been applied to an asset, the transcript is automatically indexed against that asset, creating a simple one-step workflow for administrators And it also creates a critical relationship that is extending the asset's discoverability. In some systems, the transcript is actually placed in a metadata field. So the metadata fields can have character limitations that can basically cut off like your transcripts. Understanding that limitation in Quartex, the transcript is actually a completely separate document. So there are no character limitations on transcripts in Quartex. What's next for full text search? There are actually three areas in which we're focused for immediate future development. So the first is expanding supported languages. Currently, we support most Western European languages. Much of our current language capabilities have focused around the needs of current customers, as well as Adam Matthew digital content. But we do have the capacity to support many other languages, along with a skilled technical team who can build support of additional languages based on client need. So our OCR is capable of supporting roughly 180 different languages, and AV transcription is capable of supporting 31 different languages. HTR is actually not specific to a given language, but it is specific to a character set, and in this case, the Roman alphabet. So because HTR, the algorithm is searching for a combination of letters, as long as the document is using the Roman alphabet, it doesn't matter what language it's written in, it should be able to find your search term. So if you have a question about a particular language we support, please let us know. Second, and perhaps most exciting, is that we're looking to enhance our HTR technology to include transcription as an output. Adam Matthew does absolutely understand the value of manuscript transcription as an output of HTR processing, and we are scoping out the ability for HTR to do this. This should help with legibility issues related to handwritten content. We also know that today many students do not learn how to write in cursive. And so over time, having a transcript is going to be a really critical resource. As with OCR and AV transcription, the HTR transcript will also extend the discoverability of handwritten documents beyond just the metadata, and that's a really critical step for us. The transcript will also provide new opportunities for some researchers who may have visual impairments, making once inaccessible materials now accessible to new audiences. And as with all transcripts, once these are available, researchers would then be able to take and use those transcripts for digital humanities projects to make new discoveries about our content. And then finally, there's always the possibility of Quartex continuing to enhance our HTR capabilities by performing additional training. So HTR is currently trained outside of the system. It is not trained on the fly. So basically, you can't run a search on an asset multiple times and have the accuracy change. We are able to train the technology, though, and we have extended its capabilities since we initially released it. So we trained it to recognize secretary hand, which is a form of writing that predates the 18th century, and it differs slightly from the way we write today. So the training, our HDR was trained on secretary hand in partnership with the Folger Shakespeare Library, who provided us with a corpus of about 100 documents written in secretary hand, for which they also had the transcripts of those documents available. So the algorithm was trained to recognize the differences and handwriting. Once it was trained, we then updated the technology in the Quartex platform for the benefit of all users. And so that's something we can continue to do based on demand and the availability of resources like what the Folger Shakespeare Library was able to provide to us. So that brings us to the conclusion of our discussion on Quartex full text search. So we'll now open it up to Q&A. Also, we do have a poll that is available in our chat box, and I'm going to go ahead and see if I can pull that up for you here. So we are looking for any feedback you might be able to share with us about topics that would be of interest for future webinars. And so you can actually just submit your answers here, or Jessica, if you're able to pull that up. I don't know if you're able to pull that up, but please do give us your feedback. You can also just type a response into the chat feature if that's your preference. So with that, we'll go ahead and open it up to Q&A.
And
I don't know
Katie,
if
we have a
anybody,
couple.
if you would like to,
Katie,
go ahead.
Yeah, Katie, we have a couple questions from the chat.
Okay,
sorry, I
great.
can hear myself speaking, so it's a little trippy for me. So we have a question. Do all Quartex websites have a URL ending in quartexcollections.com?
That's a great question, and I believe that currently most of them do, though you can customize your URL. So that is a conversation that we'd be happy to have with you based on what you think your needs are.
Alan, we're happy to discuss what your needs are and bring that offline. And if there's anybody else that has that question, we can talk about what it takes to make that happen. There's also another question. Is there a way to combine across all collections and institutions, or do you just publish your site? So
that's a great question. Go ahead, Jessica, if you want to respond to that.
Yeah, I think that there's a few ways that we could approach it. One is that you could have multiple collections and even multiple institutions under your instance of Quartex. For example, if you had different repositories and someone needed a different website, you could publish all on the same instance of Quartex. Currently, you're not able to search across all Quartex sites, but that's something that we would certainly want to consider in the future, and also have that include a federated search that also includes all of Adam Matthew digital content as well. Anything that you want to add to that, Katie?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Just also to make clear, though, that you are basically, when you have a Quartex license, your institution is given a license with your own administrative instance of the platform from which you can then publish. Karen, I saw you had a second question. It sounds like you get credits for transcription and HTR. How is that priced or bundled into this offering? And that is true. So clients have the option to purchase credits for HTR, OCR, and AV transcription. From the administrative side of the platform, we're actually on the dashboard here. You can see that we have HTR usage, and you can see that this account has 54,000 credits associated with it. And it looks like maybe we should add some more because we're running at about 98% of what they have available. So when you sign up for a license, you can purchase a bundle of credits. We also do extend, we understand that most clients are likely going to be running those services during their migration year. So we do offer both bulk pricing for credits as well as a discount on the purchase of credits during the first year. So please let us know if you have any other questions about that. But from the dashboard, you can actually track your credits and how many you're using as well, in addition to being given that warning when you go to use those processes.
And Katie, I actually just want to add to that last question about accessing across institutions. You are able to save your searches, your bookmark assets, and your bookmark images across all all Quartex sites, whether that's going to be Towson's new site, Baylor's site, and also including Adam Matthew digital content that becomes published on Quartex beginning in June with mass observation. I think that's everything that I see in the chat box for now. I do see that there's a response in our poll for more information on website design, which I think would be a fun one myself. If there's any other questions, we do want to share that we are having another webinar next week at the same time, and it's on building digital exhibits in Quartex. So if you would like any additional information on that, please let us know.
Absolutely. And just want to thank you all again for joining us today. And we'll be following up with you to provide you with a copy of the recording as soon as possible.
And thank you all for joining.